Owning a mansion, it may be the stuff of dreams for many. Expansive estates, sweeping views, more than enough room for the family, the in-laws family, and the family of the in-laws. Living in a mansion is a surefire way to live the good life. Sadly, though, owning a mansion is not something most people will experience in their lifetime. That is, unless you find a steal. Believe it or not, there are some mansions that no one will touch, no matter the price tag. Whether they're haunted, too remote, too run down, too bizarre, or just too old, we're going to take a look at 15 mansions no one wants to buy. Number 15. Granite Loma. Granite Loma isn't just a mansion, it's the biggest log cabin in the United States, and it's said to be the biggest log cabin in the world. The mansion sits along the shoreline of Lake Superior in Michigan on a sprawling 5,000-acre forest. The cabin boasts 26,000 square feet and has 23 bedrooms, a private marina, and an outbuilding with 4 apartments. The mansion was built by the co-founder of General Motors, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places. The house is furnished, complete with taxidermy, bearskin rugs, and Native American art. The mansion was listed for $40 million, but no offers came in, and the price was slashed in half. Even still, there were no takers for this historic cabin. It's in an extremely remote area, and it's really old, so why not check your bank account? Number 14. Peter Grant Mansion. The Peter Grant Mansion was supposed to be the largest mansion in Canada, with 65,000 square feet of living space. It's also known as the Haileybury House. The mansion sits on the shores of Lake Temiskaming in northern Ontario. It was started by Peter Grant, the owner of Grant Forest Products, in 2005, and the mansion was going to have a massive amount of mind-boggling amenities, including a golf course, a boathouse fit for a 40-foot yacht, an indoor pool, and several waterfalls. But in 2009, Grant's company was forced to file for court protection from creditors, and all his assets, including the mansion, were put up for sale. The mansion was listed for $25 million in 2010 and sat unpurchased for several years. It's sat abandoned ever since, slowly falling into disrepair. It's estimated that the house will need at least $1 million just to finish the construction. Number 13. Anne Starrett Mansion. The Anne Starrett Mansion was built in 1889 and is revered for its Queen Anne architectural detailing. It's got about 5,800 square feet, has 8 bedrooms, 7 3/4 baths, and is located in Port Townsend, Washington. This home was lovingly built by George Starrett for his wife, Anne. Turns out, though, that the couple never actually left, even after they died. The Anne Starrett Mansion is known for being haunted. Both the spirits of George and Anne frequent the mansion, along with the spirit of their child's nanny. People report pictures falling from the walls, lights turning off by themselves, and strange noises. Perhaps this shouldn't be surprising, since the town of Port Townsend is listed as one of the top 20 most haunted locations in the United States. This haunted mansion sat on the market for 12 years before it finally sold in 2017 for the bargain price of just $775,000. Number 12. The Chrismark Castle. The Chrismark Castle sits in Woodstock, Connecticut, and was originally listed for $45 million, but was relisted for $60 million in 2022. The castle is owned by Christopher Mark, and he spent 7 years building this bizarre mansion. Mark apparently was inspired by the fairy tales his daughter read, which is likely true since the castle looks like something right out of the pages of a storybook. It's got towers, massive stone walls, and a dungeon, and even boasts a moat. The castle has Gothic architecture and spans 22,000 square feet of living space. It's situated on Lake Porter, and it's full of elegant, high-end finishes, but given the castle's unusual architecture, it's a bit of a tough sell. The Chrismark Castle appears to be a bit of an acquired taste. Although the price has gone up, the castle has been listed for almost a decade with no buyers in sight. Number 11. The New Jersey Watcher Home. The Watcher House in Westfield, New Jersey has one of the creepiest backstories of any mansion. In 2014, Derek and Maria Broadus bought the 1905 colonial home, but just a few days later after they moved in, they started receiving threatening notes. Basically, the notes claimed that a family had been responsible for watching the house for 110 years. One note stated, quote, "My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s, my father watched it in the 1960s, and it's now my time," end quote. The note also refers to the couple's 3 children by name and calling them young blood. The terrified couple fled the house and listed it, but it wouldn't sell, so they rented it out. But in 2017, the notes continued. The watcher was back and was threatening the renters. No one ever figured out who was sending the notes. And needless to say, the mansion, with its inherent watcher, was a really tough sell. Number 10. The Sway Tower. The Sway Tower certainly doesn't look like other mansions on this list, which is perhaps why the vertical mansion is having a tough time finding a buyer. The Sway Tower is officially the world's tallest unreinforced concrete structure. It was built as a folly, and for 100 years the only living thing in it were pigeons. But about 45 years ago, the tower was converted into a residential home by Paul and Julie Atlas. This unusual mansion is 216 feet tall and has a spiral staircase that leads to the top. The tower can be seen for several miles, and it was a bed and breakfast before it was the couple's home. This Sway Tower was put on the market in 2018 and was listed for £3.5 million. However, when no offers came in, the price was dropped to £1.6 million. But even the dramatic price drop wasn't enough to entice buyers. Apparently, the bizarre vertical pigeon refuge turned residential home isn't very appealing to buyers. Number 9. Carlton Island Villa. The Carlton Island Villa was built in 1894 by architect William Miller. The house was built for William Wyckoff, a man who became rich for helping develop the Remington Arts Company typewriter. Wyckoff was pleased with the mansion, but he didn't get much of a chance to enjoy it. He only spent one night in the mansion before he dropped dead from a heart attack. The mansion was passed down to his son, but when his son lost his fortune, the mansion was bought by General Electric in the 1930s. They were going to use the mansion as a company retreat, but when World War II broke out, they abandoned both their plans and the mansion. The mansion's been abandoned ever since, and now sits in a state of disrepair. It was listed in 2012 for a modest $495,000, which seems reasonable since the mansion sits on 6.9 acres of land, has 11 bedrooms, and has its own private waterfront. However, the sheer magnitude of repairs continues to turn off buyers. The mansion basically needs a complete gut and rebuild. Number 8. Minchang Ghost House. The old Liu family mansion is better known as the Minchang Ghost House, since it's one of the most famous haunted locations in Taiwan. The house was built by the Liu family. They mysteriously abandoned the mansion in the 1950s. There are several rumors and theories as to why the family left, most of them involving scandal and/or mysterious deaths. But the fact is, no one really knows why they left. The mansion's been abandoned ever since, and it's now believed to be haunted. Overgrown with foliage, the roots that twist and turn their way throughout the house help give this house an eerie quality. Yet needless to say, the mansion lacks curb appeal, and the many stories of the strange paranormal happenings inside the house make it less than appealing to the average buyer. Number 7. Charming Forge Mansion, Wilmersdorf, Pennsylvania. At first glance, the charming Forge Mansion looks like the stuff of dreams, with 7 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and 7 working fireplaces. The lovely colonial mansion sits on a large 48-acre idyllic lot. It also features a carriage barn and is just an hour outside of Harrisburg and 2 hours away from Philadelphia. The mansion hit the market for just under $825,000, but there are 2 things that put off potential buyers. The first is that the house has a museum-like quality to it. So much of the original house is preserved, and a lot of the people want something a little more modern. This house is also apparently haunted. There are several legends surrounding haunting in the house, including the ghost of the Weeping Lady, sounds from German prisoners who died on the grounds during the American Revolution, and the curse of the Charming Forge, and a plethora of paranormal activity experienced and reported by the Senseneg Wilmersdorf family. Number 6. Aubrey Lewis Home. The Aubrey Lewis house was once listed for just $10, but even with a price that was less than average for a fast food meal, the house wouldn't sell. Why? Because the house had to be moved to a different location. The Aubrey Lewis house was built in 1906, and the Lewis family lived in it for decades. But when the Montclair Township Planning Board approved the subdivision of the land the house was on, the home was set for demolition. So the homeowners listed the house for just $10 in the hopes that someone would purchase it and move it. The developers even offered to put $10,000 towards the moving costs for anyone who would buy the home, but even the low price and the $10,000 kicker wasn't enough to save the house. Moving the house was just too costly, so no one bought it, and the historic house was demolished. Number 5. the Scheppe Mansion in Lake Forest, Illinois. This impressive mansion is 21,000 square feet of living space and even has its own lakefront. But when the property was listed, it sat untouched on the market for 13 years. The house was built in 1917 by John G. Shedd as a wedding gift to his daughter. However, his daughter died after moving into the home, and her husband, Charles Scheppe, died a few years after her. Charles's death was deemed a suicide because he left behind a note. However, all this note said was, quote, "I've been up all night. It was terrible," end quote. This, of course, led people to muse about his death, and rumors abounded. The mansion was left empty for 40 years after Charles's mysterious death. In fact, to date, the Scheppe Mansion has spent more time unoccupied than it has occupied. Number 4. Pillars Estate, Albion, New York. The Pillars Estate in Albion in New York comes with a deal of a price tag. But the price tag comes with a caveat. The owner says the home is haunted. The house is a 19th century Victorian estate, and it's been on the market for more than 3 years. Listed now for just $500,000, the house has already seen a dramatic price cut of $500,000. But even though the price was slashed in half, the house still sits there. It's a beautiful house with a ballroom, antique furnishings, 7,200 square feet of living space, and a 2-acre lot, and 11 years worth of restorations. But like other haunted mansions, no one wants a home that comes with a ghost, even if it does cost less than a condo in some cities. Number 3. The Amityville House of Horror. The Amityville House, located at 112 Ocean Avenue, Long Island, New York, is one of the most famous, if not the most famous, haunted mansion in the world. On November 13, 1974, Ronald DeFeo killed 6 of his family members in the house. On December 18, 1975, a new family moved in, only to be plagued with paranormal activity. The family, George and Kathy Lutz, with their 3 children, left just after 28 days, and their experiences in the house inspired both the iconic book, The Amityville Horror, a true story, and the many films that followed. The house itself is a 5-bedroom Dutch colonial home, and the Lutz family purchased it for just about $80,000. The house featured a swimming pool, a boathouse, and came with most of the furniture. The house was so famous that the address was changed to deter people from gawking at it from the sidewalk. Since the Lutzes, the house has exchanged hands a lot of times, and while there hasn't been any new paranormal activity reported in recent years, the house's haunted past likely continues to deter people from wanting to live there. Number 2. The Winchester Mystery House. The Winchester Mystery House. It's one of the oddest mansions in the United States. It also has one of the oddest backstories. The house was built by Sarah Winchester, who was an heiress of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. She claims that she was continually haunted by people who were killed by her family's rifles, so she took to continually building the house. In fact, some sources claim that she built day and night, rarely letting up. This unrelenting building led to her slowly build a very strange mansion. And when I say slowly, I mean slowly. She built the house for 38 years, right up until her death. This actually gives the Winchester House the Guinness Book of World Records title as the longest continuous homes construction. Sarah Winchester spent around $5.5 million building the unusual mansion, but after her death, the house sold at auction for just $135,000. The house was just too strange to fetch a decent price. For example, she was obsessed with the number 13, so the house has 13 bathrooms, 13 overflow drains in the sink, 13 hooks on various walls, etc. There's also 40 different bedrooms, since Sarah, convinced that she was being haunted, never slept in one bedroom for more than one night in a row. The more bedrooms she had, the better chances she had of outwitting the ghosts. The house has 10,000 window panes and spans 24,000 square feet. This is incredible, since the house was only an ordinary 8-room farmhouse when she bought it. But over the years, she just kept on adding and adding, resulting in a haphazard mansion with too many oddities to list here. So it's not really so much the house could be haunted. That's not really what turns off potential buyers. It's the fact that the house is mysterious and really strangely built. The word eccentric really doesn't do the Winchester Mystery House justice, nor does one of a kind. Perhaps insane is a better word. Number 1. The S.K. Pierce Mansion. The S.K. Pierce Mansion looks like everything you might think of when you think of mansions. This stunning mansion was built by Sylvester K. Pierce in 1875. This historic Victorian home features 10 bedrooms and sweeping 11-foot ceilings. It also has marble fireplaces located throughout the house, and it's got a lot of its original features, including the windows, hinges, and floors. The house is listed for the bargain price of $329,000, which is below the price of much less grand homes in some U.S. cities. Sounds like a bargain, right? So why does no one want this beautiful mansion? Well, apparently the house doesn't just come with the original features and a sprawling layout, it also comes with a plethora of ghosts. The S.K. Pierce Mansion is often called the most haunted home in New England. This house has seen several deaths over the years. People claim that there's a very strong paranormal presence within the walls of this bargain mansion. In fact, there are too many unusual experiences to list here, but just for reference, here's a few. The image of a little boy staring out the front window, a sad woman roaming the halls, unexplained chants and whispers, furniture moving on its own, creepy shadows lurking in the corners, pungent smells, doors slamming closed. This house has an unparalleled list of puzzling paranormal activity. It's exchanged hands a few times over the years. It's been used as a private dwelling, a Freemason hall, and a brothel. But given the odd reports, the house has also been investigated by paranormal specialists and has been featured on several paranormal-themed TV shows, including Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventure, and 10 Most Haunted Places in New England. So although the house has an appealing price tag, the mansion's haunted history seems to be enough to dissuade most potential buyers. I guess no one wants to live in a mansion riddled with ghosts, even if it is a bargain. And this home has more than its fair share, which is why the S.K. Pierce Mansion has built its way into the top spot on this list of 15 mansions no one wants to buy. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.